The massive hangar doors slid open with a low rumble, revealing what many had considered impossible just 5 years ago. There it stood, the HSS Thunderbolt, humanity's newest and most advanced warship ever built. Its sleek black hull absorbed the light around it, making its true size difficult to judge until you stood directly beneath its imposing shadow. "Ladies and gentlemen, I present the future of human defense," announced Admiral Wilson, his voice echoing through the cavernous space. The gathered military officials and diplomats murmured in both awe and concern. Jack Miller wiped his brow, 15 years of his life dedicated to this single moment. As chief engineer of the Thunderbolt project, he had faced countless failures, budget cuts, and technical impossibilities. Yet here it was, complete and ready for its first demonstration. "What makes this ship different from everything else in our fleet?" continued the Admiral. "Engineer Miller will explain." Jack stepped forward, his simple blue uniform a stark contrast to the decorated officials surrounding him. He spoke clearly, avoiding complex terms as instructed during the briefing. The Thunderbolt has 2 main advantages. First, its shield system works differently. Instead of blocking attacks, it absorbs energy and redirects it to our systems. Second, we've created a new weapon called the Hammer. It doesn't fire missiles or lasers. It sends out waves that can stop any engine or power source within range. What Jack didn't mention were the countless nights spent studying the strange metals found on that uncharted moon, or how the ship's core seemed to hum with a power that none of his team fully understood. Captain Tom Reed stood quietly at the back of the crowd. Tomorrow, the Thunderbolt would become his responsibility. The weight of command felt heavier than usual as he studied the reactions of the alien ambassadors present. The tall, blue-skinned delegate from the trading planets looked particularly troubled. "We will now demonstrate a fraction of the Thunderbolt's capabilities," announced Admiral Wilson. "Please direct your attention to the main screen." The massive display showed a test field where an asteroid roughly the size of a small moon floated. The Thunderbolt, already in position nearby, looked tiny compared to the rocky mass. "Full power to the Hammer, targeted disruption pattern," came the order from the test crew. What happened next caused even the most seasoned military officials to step back in shock. A barely visible wave rippled from the ship toward the asteroid. When it hit, the enormous rock didn't explode or break apart, it simply collapsed in on itself, compressing into a fraction of its former size before dissolving into dust. Complete silence filled the hangar. "That was 17% power," Jack added quietly. The ambassador from the Galactic Council stepped forward, his expression grim. "This weapon violates 3 separate treaties. We demand an immediate inspection of this vessel under Galactic Code Section 7. Admiral Wilson's smile faded. "The Thunderbolt was built for defense, not conquest. But we will consider your request." Later that evening, Captain Tom gathered his newly assigned crew. 50 men and women who would soon control the most powerful ship in known space. "I won't lie to you," he said, looking at their young faces. "The Thunderbolt is about to become the most watched ship in the galaxy. Some will try to destroy it. Others will try to steal it. Our job is to show everyone that humans can be trusted with this kind of power." Engineer Jack stood at the back of the room, dark circles under his eyes. He alone knew that the Thunderbolt had secrets even the military didn't understand. As the crew prepared for their first mission, he wondered if he had built humanity's greatest protection, or its most dangerous threat. The launch was scheduled for dawn. By nightfall, the news had spread across every world in the Alliance. The humans had changed the rules of warfare forever. The Thunderbolt glided silently through the disputed sector, its sensors sweeping the darkness ahead. Captain Tom sat in the command chair, reviewing the mission parameters one final time. "Patrol the border, show presence, but avoid conflict if possible." "Sir, we're picking up multiple ships ahead," reported Lisa, the young radar specialist. 5 vessels, Star Empire design. The Star Empire, humanity's most persistent rival in the galactic community. Known for their aggressive expansion and technological pride, they had dismissed reports of the Thunderbolt as human propaganda. "Slow to half speed," ordered Tom. "Open standard communications." The main screen flickered to life, revealing the sharp features of a Star Empire commander. His yellow eyes narrowed at the sight of humans. "This is Commander Dex of the Star Empire fleet. You have entered protected space." Tom stood, keeping his voice calm. "Commander, this is Captain Tom Reed of the HSS Thunderbolt. According to Galactic Council maps, this is neutral territory." The commander's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile in his species. "A single human ship dares to challenge 5 of our warbuds? Perhaps the rumors of your new weapon are merely stories." Jack entered the bridge, his face tense. "Captain, they're scanning us heavily. Trying to penetrate our shield harmonics." "Let them look," Tom replied quietly. "Weapons remain offline." The standoff might have ended there, a simple test of nerves, if not for what happened next. 3 civilian transport ships jumped into the sector, their trajectories bringing them directly between the opposing vessels. "Refugee ships," Lisa confirmed. "Fleeing the drought in the outer colonies." On screen, Commander Dex's expression darkened. "Clear this space immediately or be destroyed with these inconveniences." The Star Empire ships powered up their weapons, targeting locks engaging on the civilian vessels. Tom's hand tightened on his chair. "Engineering, I need options that won't start a war." Jack moved to the tactical station. "We could use the hammer at minimum power, just enough to disrupt their targeting systems without damaging their ships." "Time to civilian impact?" Tom asked. 2 minutes, sir." Tom took a deep breath. "Do it." 17% power, focused beam. Jack's fingers flew across the console. "Ready, sir." "Fire." Unlike the demonstration, there was no visible effect, no spectacular explosion or destruction. The only indication that anything had happened was the sudden confusion on Commander Dex's face as his tactical officer reported weapon systems failing across all 5 warships. "What have you done?" Dex demanded, rage building in his voice. "Saved you from making a terrible mistake," Tom replied. "Those civilians are under our protection now. When your systems reset in about 6 hours, you're welcome to follow us to the nearest Galactic Council station to file a complaint." After ensuring the refugee ships were safely escorted to the jump gate, Tom called Jack to his quarters. "That was too close," the captain said. "And too public." Jack nodded. "By tomorrow, every species in the quadrant will know we can disable ships without destroying them." "Is that better or worse than them knowing we can obliterate asteroids?" "Both are dangerous knowledge," Jack replied. "But sir, there's something else. During the confrontation, I detected someone accessing our technical databases from inside the ship." Tom's eyes narrowed. "We have a spy on board." "Yes, sir. And whoever it is, they're trying to learn exactly how the hammer works." Tom stared out the viewport at the stars beyond. "Find them, Jack. Before they turn our own weapon against us." News of the Thunderbolt's encounter with the Star Empire spread faster than light itself. Within days, the ship became the center of an interstellar controversy. The Thunderbolt hovered at the edge of the Gamma sector, surrounded by a growing collection of alien vessels. Some had come to observe, others to test, and a few clearly hoped to provoke. 14 ships now, sir, Lisa reported from her station. 3 more just arrived from the mining consortium. Captain Tom rubbed his temples. "Any direct challenges?" "Not yet, but they're running battle simulations. They're trying to find our weakness." A call came through from Earth Command. Admiral Wilson's stern face filled the screen. "Captain, the situation is becoming unstable. Show restraint at all costs. We can't afford an incident. Understood, sir, Tom replied, though he wondered if restraint alone would be enough. In engineering, Jack hadn't slept in 36 hours. He and his team worked frantically to improve the ship's defensive systems. The Thunderbolt was never designed to face so many potential enemies at once. The shield harmonics are fluctuating, muttered Jack. If they all attack together. The alarm blared before he could finish. The mining consortium ships had broken formation, weapons hot and closing fast. All hands to battle stations, ordered Tom. Evasive pattern Delta. The Thunderbolt twisted gracefully, avoiding the first volley of plasma torpedoes. But the alien ships had coordinated their attack perfectly, there was nowhere to run. Captain, we're surrounded, Lisa called out. Tom's eyes narrowed. Jack, we need the hammer. Sir, at this range, even minimum power could. Do it. Jack activated the system. The hammer pulsed once, twice, and then a third time, each wave expanding outward in concentric rings of invisible force. The effect was immediate and devastating. The attacking ships didn't just lose power, their hulls cracked and buckled as if crushed by an invisible fist. Within seconds, emergency beacons flashed across the darkness. The watching vessels retreated instantly, jumping to safety as the Thunderbolt stood alone amidst the wreckage. Scan for survivors, Tom ordered, his voice hollow. That night, the galaxy learned a terrifying truth: humanity wasn't just powerful, it was dangerous. The Thunderbolt raced through the dense nebula, engines straining as it fled deeper into the cosmic cloud. Behind them, 6-star Empire Hunter ships followed like shadows, their specialized tracking systems cutting through the dust and gas. They're still on us, Lisa reported, her voice tight. Their new trackers can detect our engine signature even through the nebula. Captain Tom studied the tactical display. After the mining consortium incident, the Star Empire had declared the Thunderbolt a threat to galactic peace. Their elite hunter fleet had been dispatched with a single mission: destroy the human warship at any cost. How's our power reserve? Tom asked. Jack looked up from the engineering station, his face grim. 63% and falling. The nebula is interfering with our collection systems. This was the weakness they hadn't discovered in testing. The Thunderbolt's revolutionary power systems struggled in certain natural phenomena. What should have been a perfect hiding place had become a trap. We can't outrun them forever, Tom said. And we can't fight all 6 at once. Jack's eyes suddenly widened. Maybe we don't have to fight them. Captain, I have an idea. 20 minutes later, the Thunderbolt emerged from the nebula, racing toward a nearby asteroid field. The hunter ships followed, closing the gap. They're taking the bait, Lisa confirmed. Now, Jack, ordered Tom. Jack initialized the sequence they had prepared. The Thunderbolt released a small probe carrying a copy of its unique power signature, then abruptly cut all systems. The massive ship drifted silently into the asteroid field as the hunters raced past, following the decoy. In the darkness of the powered-down bridge, Tom and his crew waited. Then, without warning, the emergency lights flickered to life. What's happening? Tom demanded. Jack frantically checked his systems. Someone's overriding the shutdown from inside the ship. We're powering back up. The Thunderbolt's engines flared to life, broadcasting their position to every ship in the sector. The trap had been reversed. The spy, Tom realized too late. The hunter ships changed course instantly, weapons charged. As the first shots struck the Thunderbolt's weakened shields, Jack finally understood: they had built the perfect warship, but forgotten to guard against the enemy within. The Thunderbolt limped back to Earth, its once pristine hull now scarred by battle. The ship had escaped the hunter ambush, but barely. 3 crew members had been lost, and the hammer weapon system was offline. In the dim light of engineering, Jack knelt beside an open panel, studying circuitry that shouldn't exist. The damage from the attack had revealed something hidden beneath layers of shielding, technology unlike anything humans had designed. "What am I looking at?" Captain Tom asked, stepping into the room. Jack didn't look up. "The truth, sir. The Thunderbolt wasn't built only from human knowledge." He pointed to glowing blue components nestled within the ship's power core. "These aren't in any blueprint. They're not made of any element we've classified. And they're what makes the hammer possible." "How?" Tom demanded. "The materials we found on that uncharted moon, they weren't just rare metals. They were artifacts. Someone built them, long ago. We reverse-engineered what we could, but—" Jack finally looked up, his face pale. "We never fully understood what we were copying." Tom stared at the alien components, realization dawning. "You're saying our greatest weapon is based on technology we don't understand?" "Exactly. And there's more." Jack stood, crossing to a console. "During repairs, I found this encoded in the power system's base code." The screen displayed a simple message in flowing symbols that somehow translated themselves as they watched. "The test continues. Use wisely." "A test?" Tom whispered. "Someone gave us this technology deliberately," Jack said. "They're watching how we use it." That evening, Tom gathered his senior officers. The decision before them was impossible: report their discovery to Earth Command, or continue their mission carrying a power they now knew wasn't truly theirs. "If we tell Command, they'll decommission the ship immediately," argued the tactical officer. "And if we don't, we're lying to our own government," countered Lisa. The crew voted. The result was unanimous: continue the mission, but with a new purpose. "Set course for the Forbidden Zone," Tom ordered. "We're going to find who built this technology in the first place." As the Thunderbolt's engines powered up, Jack added new safeguards to control the ship's mysterious heart. They were flying into unknown space, carrying a weapon they barely understood, and possibly being judged by its creators. The Thunderbolt hovered at the edge of neutral space, surrounded by an unlikely gathering. Ships from 7 different species, including 3 that had previously been hostile to humans, formed a loose circle around the human warship. "They're all responding to our invitation," Lisa confirmed, surprise evident in her voice. After weeks of careful diplomacy, Captain Tom had proposed something unprecedented: a sharing of defensive technologies among former rivals. The devastating power of the hammer had changed the equation of galactic politics. Smaller species now sought protection, while larger empires worried about falling behind. "Open ship-wide communications," Tom ordered. "And prepare the main hangar for visitors." Within hours, the Thunderbolt's hangar bay held representatives from across the galaxy. Many eyed each other warily. Some of these species had been fighting for generations. Jack stood before them, displaying simplified schematics of the ship's defensive systems. "The key isn't the weapon itself," he explained. "It's how we manage the power flow. With modifications, your existing ships could implement similar protections." A tall, gray-skinned diplomat stepped forward. "Why would humans share such an advantage?" "Because what's coming affects us all," Tom replied. Before he could elaborate, alarms blared throughout the ship. Lisa's voice came through the comm system: "Captain, massive fleet approaching. Not Star Empire. Nothing we've seen before." On the bridge, the tactical display showed over 50 ships emerging from jump points. Their design was angular, predatory, and completely unknown. "All ships, defensive positions," Tom ordered over the open channel. The gathered diplomatic vessels, though armed, were no match for such a force. But they formed up behind the Thunderbolt anyway, a makeshift alliance born of desperation. "Jack, what options do we have?" Tom asked. Jack studied his console. The hammer is still at reduced power. But his eyes widened with sudden inspiration. If we linked our power systems with the other ships, we could create a network. Distribute the hammer's effect through all vessels simultaneously. Would that work? In theory. If they trust us enough to let us into their systems. Within minutes, engineers from all ships worked frantically to establish connections. Ancient enemies now collaborated, fear of the unknown greater than old hatreds. When the enemy fleet opened fire, the makeshift alliance responded as one, a unified defensive wave that rippled outward, protecting them all. The foundation for a new galactic order had been laid. 1 year after the battle against the unknown fleet, the Thunderbolt docked at the newly constructed Alliance station. The massive space platform, built through the combined efforts of 12 species, served as headquarters for what many now called the Thunderbolt Accord. Captain Tom, now Admiral Tom, stood by the observation window watching ships come and go. Many displayed the distinctive modifications that Jack had designed, adaptations of the hammer technology that emphasized defense over destruction. Quite a view, isn't it? Jack approached, no longer wearing an engineer's uniform but the formal attire of an academy director. Hard to believe this all started with one ship, Tom replied. Below them, the main hangar held 5 new vessels based on the Thunderbolt's design. Unlike their predecessor, these ships had been built with transparent oversight from all member species. The technology that had once been humanity's secret was now a shared resource. The first graduating class leaves tomorrow, Jack said. Engineers from every Alliance world, trained to understand and respect the power they're working with. And the original source? Any progress? Jack nodded. The expedition to the Forbidden Zone found more artifacts. We're studying them carefully, together with our allies. The message was right, it was a test. Advanced species were watching to see if we'd use the technology for conquest or cooperation. A delegation from the Galactic Council approached, led by the same gray-skinned diplomat who had once questioned human motives. Admiral, Director, he greeted them. The Council has ratified the new weapons development protocol. With human input, we've established guidelines that all major powers have agreed to follow. Tom smiled. Including the Star Empire? Even they saw the wisdom in cooperation after the outer threat revealed itself. Later that day, the original Thunderbolt prepared for departure. Its mission had changed dramatically from its first launch. Now, instead of patrolling borders or displaying force, it would lead an exploration initiative to find other ancient technologies, and ensure they were used wisely. As the legendary ship pulled away from the station, beings across the galaxy watched with new understanding. The warship that had been too powerful to be legal had become the foundation for something unexpected, lasting peace through shared strength. The test, it seemed, humanity had passed.